Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everybody. Welcome to this Shot on Snapdragon live chat. We're here in the Snapdragon Insiders studio at the Qualcomm headquarters here in sunny San Diego, California. And for those of you who are not familiar with a Shot on Snapdragon live chat, what we do is bring in a Snapdragon expert, bring in questions from the audience, and then we stream it all on a Snapdragon powered device. The phone we're using today is a Samsung Galaxy S23 Ultra, which is, of course, powered by the Snapdragon 8 Gen 2 for Galaxy. And what we're talking about today is Snapdragon 8 Gen 2. So it's the perfect lead in. With me today is our GM, SVP and GM for handsets, Chris Patrick. Thanks for coming, Chris.
Thank you, Jason.
Yes, there's no way we're going to get through the first introduction without at least one little glitch, but that's okay. So the way that the questions work are we have assembled a list of questions based off of what we've seen Snapdragon Insiders and what we've seen people give us across the last few months after we launched Snapdragon 8 Gen 2. Then we've also gone out and asked our Snapdragon Insiders, what do you want to hear from Chris Patrick? Do you have any questions about 8 Gen 2? We have some of those questions. And then we're also going to be looking in the chat and seeing if there's some questions we can answer there at the end. We'll see if we have time, but this way we're going to be able to answer a whole bunch of your questions and give you a lot more information about Snapdragon 8 Gen 2. All right.
Okay. All right.
With that, we're going to get started. So, and I think that is my phone there. Okay. So what I think should start off with is the basic question about what is the difference between Snapdragon 8 Gen 2 and previous versions of our product?
Okay, perfect. Well, very happy to be here and happy to talk with everybody. This is live TV, so the live video. So the stakes are high.
No net.
I got to make sure I stay exactly on script. So you let me know if I go off.
Okay.
Okay, good man. So the 8 Gen 2 was really one of our biggest steps forward. Honestly, very, very excited about the chipset, very excited about the platform. And hopefully you saw some of that at the launch event in Hawaii. But this is a platform where really we focused, as always, really across this very broad set of different technologies. We want to make sure we have the very best camera in the industry. We have the very best CPU in the industry. We have the very best GPU in the industry. We bring all those things together with the best possible security. So really a very broad and diverse product. And the 8 Gen 2 across really each of these different technology vectors, as we call them, took a big step forward. One of the strong themes was to have better performance, but also better power efficiency, to make sure that all these capabilities we have fit within the realistic battery profiles and thermal profiles of an end device. So really huge improvements there in performance and then in power efficiency. But definitely one of the themes across the entire platform, though, was AI. So we talked about a lot in Hawaii, and you've seen a lot of announcements from Qualcomm since on AI. So really, the 8 Gen 2 AI was the central theme that wove across the entire device, really enhancing each of those capabilities, each of those functionalities, enhancing really each of those different verticals.
Well, you mentioned Hawaii, so I think the last time that we saw each other was at Snapdragon Summit in Hawaii, and that's when the 8 Gen 2 was announced. But now, over the last couple of months, I'd like to call it the most wonderful time of the year. That's when our customers start bringing out smartphones and other devices with our product. So how does that feel to actually see that come to life? And how long have you been working on it? I assume that's, there's probably a long lead time before, from starting the product and actually seeing it live in a customer device.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, each of these devices actually, it may not be as obvious to kind of the lay people. I know the Snapdragon Insiders are deeply invested in our technology. But it takes actually about 3 years to go from a concept, really when we've sat down and said, this is really the identity of the product, of the 8 Gen 2. What is the identity of it? What technologies do you want to emphasize? What capabilities do you want to bring to market? From then, we create the technology. We then put these building blocks together, engineer the entire system together, do prototypes, iterate with our customers. All that takes about 3 years. So yeah, it's all sort of, I almost think of these projects in sort of the age of my kids at the time. I mean, that's the scale really each of these projects has. And so then it's very gratifying where in the end, we go to Hawaii and we tell everybody about the final device, our final platform. and then our customers take that and create these incredible devices with it that we get to hold in our hands. That's the fun thing about this industry that I've devoted my whole career to is in the end we get to hold the device in our hands. We get to show our families. We get to show off with friends and family about the incredible capabilities we brought. So yeah, we just had a workshop with one of our most important customers and really celebrated how the experiences we're able to bring on this 8 Gen 2.
Well, one of the questions that we got, it reminds me of the fact that, and we didn't plant this question, but we had multiple people actually say, wow, 8 Gen 2, it's so great. It's amazing. How are you going to top yourself? How could you possibly do more than what 8 Gen 2 is? Which again, we appreciate everyone out there for saying those such nice things. But knowing that you're now planning 3, 5, or how many other years out for the next versions of these products, what are the kinds of things that you can see that we're trying to solve for? Obviously, we can't talk about future products here, guys, just be clear. But what are the kind of problems that you think we're going to be trying to solve for?
Sure. Yeah, we have a tremendous roadmap. Really at Qualcomm, we've really all devoted our kind of lives and careers to this kind of deep long-term R&D, and then taking that R&D and applying it to these products. So we always have a technology pipeline that was really built and created a decade or more than that back. And so that's the kind of the depth of the pipeline of things we're going to bring to bear here. So a lot of exciting new technologies coming. Camera is a place where there's always more we can do. The human eye, I think, can perceive really almost infinite depth, infinite color precision, and there's so much more we can do to make make the camera, even on these amazing devices, even better and get a better approximation of the human eye. AI is something that every day, I think for good reason, you're seeing headlines, even in kind of mainstream press and things like that, about new things happening on AI. And you're going to see a lot of those experiences brought to you directly on the device. So some pretty amazing things coming on the Snapdragon platform.
Well, that's a good transition, because one of the questions that we've gotten a lot about, and what we've been talking a lot about already, and what's in the news a lot, is AI.
Sure.
So why don't we talk a little bit about how Snapdragon 8 Gen 2 uses AI and how it's you said, a big part of how you develop the platform.
Okay. So you can think of AI as a tool, right, that allows us to solve certain classes of problems. So certain types of decisions and certain types of operations are best done using neural networks, really, which is the heart of AI. So we use it for some things that are almost behind the scenes. For example, you take a picture or you do kind of video, right? So we're sitting here. The backdrop is very different material than your shirt or your skin, or we have different skin color. So all of those kinds of decisions can be, if we have AI enhancing that camera, we can process each of these different surfaces a little bit differently to really capture the true essence and perfectly capture the experience you have with your natural eye with the camera. So AI is fundamentally fused into how we do camcorder, how we do video, accelerated by AI. And so the same, for example, for modem, right? So you have your phone maybe in your pocket. So that's a very different RF environment than if it's sitting here, maybe depending where the cell towers are kind of around us. You have to do very different operations. So AI helps us make smarter decisions and enhances the modem capability. We have things on 8 Gen 2, for example. We have this very low power AI camera that allows us to have some pretty interesting experiences, right? Where, for example, you can just, if I come and look over your shoulder at your screen, I could detect that that's the case. And depending how you have the phone set up, I could turn off your screen to protect your privacy. So anyway, so AI enhances the capabilities of the underlying device in a lot of different ways that the user might not see directly as AI. But then some of the new use cases that are emerging are more directly kind of consumer-facing AI. So, for example, at Mobile World Congress, which is a big trade show in Spain, happens in February every year. At that trade show, we did a demo of something called Stable Diffusion. So Stable Diffusion is this particular AI network, particular neural network that you can run to go from text to images. So we demonstrated that, again, right on the Snapdragon 8 Gen 2.
We have props.
So it's very professional on the 8 Gen 2. So we demonstrated that at Mobile World Congress. In just a few seconds, you can just describe an image, and then with no network connection, just using the on-device processing, we can convert that text description into an image. So if you haven't seen it, you should definitely check out that demo. But it's pretty breathtaking.
Yeah, actually, on our social channels, we had a naming contest because one of the things that they used Stable Diffusion to do was to create a cat, a warrior cat. And so if you haven't seen that, you can look for it on, I know there's a Qualcomm OnQ blog post about it. And so we did run a naming contest. The winner was Kitty Warrior. I personally was voting for Katy Purry. I thought that was a much better name, but definitely something I've seen a lot of as well. People are really interested in that.
I'm with you, but
generative
the
things.
people have spoken. So,
Yes.
we go with that.
People. So switching gears a little bit, we were talking about how we're live streaming on a Samsung Galaxy S23 Ultra. I have one right here to kind of monitor the chat.
Sure.
And that is powered by the Snapdragon 8 Gen 2 for Galaxy. So what's the difference between the Snapdragon 8 Gen 2 and the Snapdragon 8 Gen 2 for Galaxy?
Okay. Yeah. So Samsung is one of our closest partners. And yeah, we worked with them on the 8 Gen 2 design, which again is a fantastic platform. But yeah, we worked on their particular requirements of their first party applications of their customers, and did some tuning on the platform specifically for those for that segment of the market. So yeah, one of the things we did was we increased the CPU frequency, increased the GPU frequency, and then really have worked closely with them on kind of co-designing some of the aspects of the platform to really suit the requirements of their particular device and of their particular customer base. But again, Samsung is strong partners of ours.
And I can confirm that this is the Samsung S23 Ultra. It's a great phone.
Yeah.
So moving on to gaming. So that's something we also get a lot of questions about. We have a lot of gamers that are Snapdragon Insiders, a lot of interest in that. And specifically, one of the questions we've gotten over the last few months is about ray tracing. We announced that ray tracing is something that's supported by Snapdragon 8 Gen 2. And two questions we kind of get are around the lines of, how did we do it?
Sure.
And also, why did we do it? A little bit of, do you really need it on a smartphone? So talk a little bit about how we implemented ray tracing and why.
Okay. So yeah, gaming has been a strong focus of ours, really again for decades. Yeah, this is one of the places that is, we think very, very, very interesting. One, customers have this insatiable demand, right? They always want more delightful experiences. They always want a higher frame rate. They always want better latency to kind of get the shot off before the other guy. There's always this insatiable demand on gaming. So it's a great fit for kind of Qualcomm and what we think about, the Snapdragon team thinks about. Yeah, one of the things we have always focused on across the entire SoC, across the entire technology pipeline, really is how to do things, how to do GPU computations and CPU and AI, but to do it in a power efficient way. So you put all that together, and that really is what drives our whole gaming experience. Is really this kind of end-to-end optimized power consumption and optimized performance, and that package together. Anyway, so ray tracing, I think, was a great fit for that mentality. Again, it's something that really produces these pretty delightful experiences. If you've seen just the demos we've done or others have done on, what it looks like to see, instead of a statically sort of painted version of a lighting effect, instead as you move your character around to see that lighting effect be dynamic. I mean, the difference is startling and breathtaking. So the challenge to our engineering team was, how can we do that in this tiny form factor with a small battery and small kind of thermal envelope? And again, we've used the same techniques we do across the entire SoC to bring that in to be done in a power efficient way that adds a little bit of supplements the overall gaming experience. But it's not something that'll be on kind of all the time in every scene or something, but really it will produce these little delightful bursts of cool visual effects. So yeah, we're excited as that rolls out. And the gaming ecosystem is gigantic, and just like our products take 3 years from concept to showing up in the marketplace, I think the game ecosystem is evolving to kind of embrace this technology and use it at the right places in different games. So yeah, you'll see content, I think, coming out soon.
Okay. So another question we get a lot from Snapdragon Insiders is that they have a surprisingly strong opinion about foundries and how we actually manufacture our products. There are people who talk about TMC versus Samsung and things like that. And so we wanted to make sure we asked you, since while you're here, about how do we make those decisions as far as where things get manufactured and what foundries we use for products?
Sure. This is actually an incredibly complicated question, very complicated topic, both kind of technically and in other aspects. So Qualcomm is has a gigantic set of devices, right, and volume of devices that we produce. So the key thing is really we can't have one supplier. We really embrace the entire ecosystem on the semiconductor side. So yeah, as really one of the biggest in the industry, we have relationships with just about everybody. We use just about everybody. So yeah, we're not in a position where we can just have a relationship with one supplier. And then it's actually very complicated. I think your viewers, I think, are sophisticated. So they understand it's not just when we compare TSMC and Samsung and particular tech nodes, it seems like it's one thing, but in fact, each of their products within their products are very diverse. So each semiconductor technology brings different set of trade-offs, things like leakage and dynamic power and voltage sensitivity, and anyway, very different packages of things. So yeah, there's not just one simple way to compare these guys, but yeah, the good thing we have at Qualcomm is a very deep set of expertise on how to best use each of this kind of building blocks that we get from the different foundries, and how to put that together in the best possible product. So anyway, you'll see we're going to always have a dynamic decision-making process as we look at what each of them can offer and what they can bring to our customers.
All right, that's great. One of the other questions we get a lot is, hey, you announced this new product from Snapdragon that has all these different features, and it supports specs up to this amount. And now I got my phone and it doesn't have that feature, or it doesn't have up to that spec.
Sure.
Why not?
Sure. Okay, that's a fair question. So yeah, we build a platform. So we build a platform that has certain kind of raw capabilities. Sometimes we're providing almost the end feature, but sometimes we're really providing building blocks to kind of enable different customers to use those building blocks to put together their own experiences. And so yeah, every customer has a different focus. Every customer has different needs they believe that are most important, resonate most with their customers. And so yeah, we see a lot of diversity. But honestly, we think that's a very good thing, because yeah, what it means is there's a marketplace of ideas, right? As in our ecosystem, they're dynamic, different ideas, different product concepts that are all in the end competing, and that's the beauty of kind of Android, really, right? Is we have this diversity of products, different form factors, different capabilities at the final product level that we think is exciting.
Okay. All right. Well, that's kind of our end of our frequently asked questions portion.
Okay.
So now we're going to get some questions that we've got from Snapdragon Insiders over the course of the last week. So I'm going to pull these up. And first one we have is from Devin. Devin asks, what Snapdragon powered device are you currently using?
That's a good question. That gets me in trouble with my customers. So okay. So the truth is I do rotate around a lot. So I deliberately want to experience different customers, kind of instantiations, different customers' kind of vision for how the technology ends up in the final device. So I do jump around a lot. However, I do spend a lot of time
And this is
back home. This is unscripted. So on the Galaxy Fold 4. And yeah, for me, this form factor really is compelling. So it means that if I'm in a customer meeting or I'm working with my team, I can look up information. I can see using the bigger form factor. Really, this is a huge productivity enhancement for me. So this is where I come back to most of the time.
All right. Andrew asks, would you be able to tell us about the new Snapdragon Sight features on Snapdragon 8 Gen 2? Okay.
So there's a lot of features there. Hard to get into just one podcast, but I will share, like, one of the things we're very excited about is what we talked about very briefly earlier, which is video segmentation, right? So anyway, that's a very techie feature, but it means, again, when you're capturing real video, the ability to use AI to tell, again, the difference between different surfaces during that video live. So the processing behind it then can adapt to each of those different segments of the image. So again, it's a subtle thing, but in the end, it makes a huge difference in the video quality you can see. In the video quality you can see even in low light scenarios. So yeah, you'll see some pretty amazing things. I think you're already seeing that in the launch devices, and there's more coming. So we're pretty excited.
Okay. Next one is from Piotr. Dobre piva, Piotr. Piotr and I rap in Polish.
Is that right?
Every so
Okay,
often.
excellent.
That's my
That's
background.
great.
That's my grandmother's. Anyway, his question is, what, in your opinion, is the most fun feature enabled by Snapdragon?
Okay, that's a good one. Again, we've talked a lot about camera, but for me, it's camera. I was recently at a Snapdragon Insiders event in China. So that was actually the 2-year anniversary of the founding of the Snapdragon Insiders in China. So Cristiano hosted it. So it was a great event. with some of our kind of most loyal followers. So anyway, great event. So we had a couple of people speak there about their experiences using Snapdragon, their experiences using Snapdragon camera. And so, yeah, one gentleman, showed himself jumping out of an airplane, using his Snapdragon phone to capture that experience. Another is a professional wildlife photographer, so showed himself in these incredibly diverse environments, using again a Snapdragon camera to capture these experiences. Just awesome. And yeah, so that's what I think about is really the camera. Actually, I was in China about 2 years before, and I happened to show some of the pictures to some of my colleagues in the China office. And I just remember at the time lugging around this gigantic camera, having extra batteries. I don't know if it was filmed yet or at the time or not. But anyway, the comparison between that now and having these incredibly powerful devices in your pocket, it's fun. Right? It's fun what you can do.
No, that's great. Okay, so let's see. We're almost out of time. Let me take a look what we have in the chat here. All right, so one question from the chat. Crazy French Froggy channel. Is that correct? Okay. He asks for the Snapdragon 8 Gen 2, how many departments inside Qualcomm are working on each part? So knowing that there's all these different parts to an SoC, how many different departments in Qualcomm work on 8 Gen 2? Yeah,
it's a great question. Yeah, I wouldn't measure it maybe in departments, but in terms of the span. So we did the study one time, sort of how many people at Qualcomm touch each of these chips, each of these platforms that we develop. And the answer is it's almost everybody at Qualcomm in the end touches some piece of this, contributes some piece. So it's something on the order of 10,000 people that at one point or another make some significant contribution. When it's an inside Qualcomm thing, but finally when the first device launches, we try to get the group together to celebrate. And yeah, in the end, you cannot see the end of the crowd because, yeah, that's how many people have some contribution to each of these platforms. Yeah, we have these specific technology teams, and then we have the teams that cut across things and bring everything together. But in the end, yeah, really, it's a very broad effort from Qualcomm. And even actually, if you include our partners, it's even a much larger number than that. So yeah, to put together a product like this and a platform like this really takes an army.
Yeah, sounds great. So I think we're actually just about out of time here. So I think we're going to have to, we really appreciate your time. I think we were going to go about 20 minutes and we're at 23 minutes here. So I'd like to thank you for the time that you had to answer these questions. I appreciate the insiders Snapdragon Insiders for asking all these great questions. So thanks again. And also remember, this is the first of a new series of Shot on Snapdragon live chats that we're going to do. So be sure to like and smash that subscribe button. I believe that's what they say, right?
That's exactly right.
Yeah, smash the subscribe button
all the time.
Yes, like and subscribe.
Like and subscribe.
So that you'll know when we have more of these Shot on Snapdragon live chats. So also, if you were interested in becoming a Snapdragon Insider, go to snapdragoninsiders.com. You can learn more about the program. You can sign up for emails. And then I would also recommend that you go to our Twitter bio, which is @Snapdragon on Twitter. We have a link to our Discord server. We have a lot of activity going on in the Snapdragon Insiders Discord server. A lot of good interaction with both folks on the Qualcomm side and who are insiders. A lot of discussion among the Snapdragon Insiders. So a lot of good ways to answer questions. So like and subscribe, snapdragoninsiders.com, Discord. And with that, we're going to leave you to the rest of your weekend. Thanks everybody for joining us.
Thank you.
So long.
Take care.